Hi guys, I don't know if these two stories are connected, but there certainly appears to be a massive coincidence. So the leader of the DUP, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, delivered a passionate speech in the House of Commons on Wednesday, part of which I will share with you. But later in the evening, the Telegraph ran this story. Rishi Sunak offers to sacrifice Brexit freedoms to re-establish government in Northern Ireland. What, I hear you say? Well, the Telegraph article, which I leave a link to, which is sadly behind a paywall, explains how Brexiteers are going to be extremely upset with the Prime Minister. You see, Rishi Sunak is planning to introduce a mechanism that would force all post-Brexit changes through Whitehall to check that they don't impact trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, because Northern Ireland is part of the single market when it comes to goods, it would see Great Britain following Northern Ireland if new regulations were applied by the EU to the single market. Sunak would be in a sense aligning Great Britain with EU standards. Now, this has caused a number of Brexiteers in the Tory party to sound the Brexit betrayal alarm. Now, the motivation behind this seems to be to get the DUP on board. Closer EU alignment would mean fewer or zero checks potentially, opening the way for the DUP to re-enter Stormont. Now, what has this got to do with Geoffrey Donaldson in the House of Commons? Let's have a listen and then I'll explain.
My party can stand over its record of the change we have delivered and will deliver. And I say to those who point the finger at us, what have you delivered? What has the traditional Unionist Voice Party delivered by way of change to the protocol? Absolutely nothing. Not a single thing. Nothing. And yet they put up posters in the dark of the night before any deal has been done, talking about a sellout. Well, what have they sold? What have they delivered for the people of Northern Ireland? What has been their contribution to securing the change that we need to restore our place in the United Kingdom and its internal market? And we read lots of other pearls of wisdom on social media about what is needed, what is required. And we hear all kinds of speculation from the commentators about what has been agreed, despite the fact they haven't seen the detail. And there is undoubtedly an attempt to orchestrate opposition to a deal that has not yet taken place, an agreement that is not yet concluded. And the very fact that we're sat here today in this House of Commons extending legislation reflects the fact, the reality, that no agreement has yet been reached. If it were, we wouldn't be here. And yet, there are some who, for their own narrow purposes, are putting it about that certain things have been agreed, that it's all there, and they know what it is. They are entitled to their view. Everyone is entitled to their perspective. But I say this: wait until an agreement is reached before you make your final verdict. Assess the progress that has been made before you reach your conclusion. But I suspect what is going on is not about that. The truth is, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there are some, a tiny minority, but there are some who don't want Stormont back, who don't want an assembly in Northern Ireland, who, and I quote, would rather have imperfect direct rule than an imperfect Stormont. That is what they say.
So this speech goes on for about 20 minutes, and he also mentions how he's been facing threats, and he responded by saying, "I have been threatened in the past by the Provisional IRA, so I'm not afraid of you people." And this, of course, is directed at loyalist paramilitaries and members of the loyalist community. Now, as I said at the beginning, I think these two are connected. Rishi Sunak has promised, as I said, according to this article, has promised to the DUP, look, if you get back into Stormont, what we're going to do is we're going to change the rules. We're going to take away so-called Brexit freedoms, and we're going to run everything through Whitehall to make sure that it doesn't impact trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. we're in a sense getting rid of the border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, of course, this is a problem for Brexiteers because Brexiteers want to diverge from EU standards. But if you diverge, you create more bureaucracy, you create more checks. So if you align with EU standards, then you remove these checks and the requirement for extra paperwork. So in a sense, Rishi Sunak is giving the DUP exactly what they have asked for. Now, when it comes back to Jeffrey Donaldson, he has been playing this game where he's been saying that we need to change the protocol, we need to change the Windsor framework or whatever, and he needs to deliver something to his party. He needs to unite his party. He needs to stand up to the headbangers, the crazies in Northern Ireland and within his party itself. One of them is behind him, Ian Paisley Jr. These people have been trying to divide the party, say that we should stay out of the Assembly, we shouldn't restart the government in Northern Ireland. But Jeffrey Donaldson, it seems, is a bit more pragmatic. I know it's difficult to suggest that he's pragmatic, to describe him as pragmatic, but within the DUP, he is more pragmatic. He understands we need to get back into government. This is damaging the DUP, it's damaging Northern Ireland, it's damaging the Union. So if we get back in, then we can show that Northern Ireland can function. If we stay out, we're damaging the Union. Now, what he was talking about is people within his party, but also the TUV, the traditional unionist voice, an extreme element sitting on the outside who are happy to say for the DUP to stay out. They're not interested in restarting as the Assembly, restarting the executive, I should say. They're happy to be a bit like Farage, sit on the sidelines and complain, because they will never be in power. Well, they is one guy, basically. One MLA. Jim Allister, that's the guy. So it's easy for him to sit on the sidelines and say, look, we shouldn't get back into the executive. If we get back into the executive, we're going to have Sinn Féin in charge. And he has put pressure. He's constantly been putting pressure, along with extreme elements in Northern Ireland. That pressure has been applied to the DUP not to get back into the executive. Now, this may be a bit of a coup for Jeffrey Donaldson because he has gone to Westminster. He has said, give me something that I can sell to my party. And this seems to be it. Rishi Sunak can say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to undo parts of Brexit in a sense in order to get the executive up and running. Here you go, DUP, you should be happy with this. And probably some money to go along with it. But this is a massive risk for Rishi Sunak because the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg and others are going to be extremely upset because they want to go in the opposite direction of EU standards. So we're going to see how this plays out. It could all collapse at the last minute, as we've seen before, or it could be Jeffrey Donaldson's way out of this problem. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.